What's your reading of the tempo of everything around this election? Could it be more of the same?
I think nothing much has changed. And you know, I love numbers. The votes cast in the previous elections, in the previous two elections, that is 2016 and 2021, was approximately 10 million votes cast. But the registered voters in 2021 were 18 million. The voter turnout actually reduced from 2021. It reduced by about 2% percentage point, because in 2016 it was 60.6. In 2021 it was 58.4. Those are the numbers, the way the numbers are. What does it mean? That even in the previous election, many did not turn out to vote, even when we had an addition of about 3.5 million voters, new voters.
On the register.
On the register. But this campaign, I don't know whether it's only my field, is that it has no vibe. The difference is, for example, with the NRM, last time they came up with another slogan. This time around they have come up with a different slogan. The NUP, it is the same thing. No accountability for it. For example, I expect that the NRM accounts for the time vis-a-vis their promises in the previous election to justify why they should be voted. For the NUP must, in all honesty, to account that we were the leading opposition political party. We have been in position to do A, B, C, and D with the government funding we've been receiving over time, and this is our promise. This is our promise. Elections that have incumbents, in terms of candidates, incumbent candidates, is a point of accountability first, and then a promise.
What do you want NUP to account for? They're not the government in power.
But
it would be flawed to ask them of anything.
And I also made this point when FDC was the leading opposition political party. Power is not just handed over. You strategize and you execute your plans. So in this case, NUP has been in short in the leadership of the opposition for the last 4 years. And I also want to say that the idea that it's a new party is wrong, because this party was established in 2004. We can discuss the new leadership, but to say that the party is young is false. Factually false. So when you're given a mantle of the leader of the opposition as a political party, then you must account for your activities in parliament. And the other thing...
Yeah, but essentially you would expect the opposition to be ramping up a sentiment of, we want a government out. And I think you would give it to Bobby Wine for that.
I am not one person who follows wagons. And therefore, the idea I was talking about is that for the little power they have had is quite indicative on how, if they get state power, they would operate. So if you're talking about the government is not accountable, we need it out. The question is, account for your time as the leading opposition party. For example, one of the accountability would be, we have been in position not to agree on everything, but to coalesce the opposition to stand against A, B, C, D, and this is what we did. And this was the point of success, and this is where we failed. Therefore, trust us. Because as I've told you, the figures are not lying. Today, on the voters register, we have approximately 3 or 4 million new voters.
Addition.
Yes. So the question is, what message are you sending to those? Because here, it shows that last time when you campaigned, many did not turn out. So at the end of the day, if we are in position to coalesce people, one, that refuse to vote, for them to turn out to vote, and also mobilize the new entrants to vote, then that makes a lot of sense. So in my view, and this cuts across to everyone, even with as the MPs and everything, our leaders should account if they've been there, and then they should make a promise. Otherwise, these things of just going to promise. I mean, we had even those promises in the previous election. So today, you must account because you had a duty.
Thank you.
And then move forward.
Councillor Sam, is the issue of giving accountability for the past 4 years anything that would matter under the circumstances?
Well, I don't think, well, it brings on board on whether you can be trusted with government, because that is what we are preoccupied with. But how do you run government? People look at the party, how the party has been run, and what the party has done, especially with public funds, like my comrade has stated. You'll bear with me that I was in the leadership of DP, and now close to the operations of the NUP as a lawyer in NUP. You realize that in DP we did not even have a party headquarters. Actually, one of the reasons why we had issues in DP is accountability. This even went to court, and I was a lawyer in this matter, even when I was the National Legal Advisor. And that was a challenge. Even just the money that was used to purchase property on Valintuma Road was an issue, which the Honorable Nobert Mao and team did not want to disclose out of iPod money. But if you told anyone that NUP in its 4 years, having at least put up three party headquarters, at the region we have 2. At the center, everyone knows. It's for everyone to see. I don't think we have accountability issues. At least Uganda would know that with NUP, you can do something that others people have not done. So I think that is a plus.
Is this anything to write home about in wooing or motivating people to listen?
Even the organization itself, I'll tell you again still, having seen how the structures run in the NUP, just look at how the AMC was running in NUP. You may have challenges like any institution would have, but that we had a party which put the whole country, in the weight. You remember you used to call it this white smoke. It means at least there's something in the NUP that we did not do in the past. But of particular interest is what has NUP brought differently from what we did not have in the past. For me, I believe if we are to go to the election, besides the structure of the party, there's the infrastructure to talk about. So the structure.
So NUP takes to the masses a success story of the opposition, right?
That in 4 years you could build a structure that political parties of 40 years could not build. That in 4 years you could build infrastructure. You have the structure, you have the infrastructure.
Are these the critical foundations that would, in real sense, make this election?
Not really.
What way?
I think the biggest issue in this election, like before, is what is the difference that we can talk about NUP today or its leader. We have a party which brought on board people ordinarily who thought they were not part of the politics of this country and who form the largest infrastructure of this country. That is the young people. You have the young people out there, especially in these suburbs, in the ghettos, or even those who thought we cannot participate in government because of age, but now believe they are part of the affairs, of the political affairs of the country. You cannot underestimate that. In the Honorable Kyagulanyi alone, you are very sure that because Uganda has 70% of what you would call a young population, you have 22%, at least, of population between 20 and 30. You cannot take that for granted. Having been in elections for a while in this country, I'm feeling that pulse. That the young people who did not believe were part of the process are now part of it. And this time round, not those young people who believe when I participate, I'm going to be in prison. I do not buy the fact that a violent election is what makes people vote. Because the vibe you may be speaking to is a vibe which has been brought by violence being meted by the ruling party against the opposition. I believe a peaceful election would actually encourage more people to vote. And we are looking at changing the numbers that my friend has been speaking to. You'll only change the numbers if people are able to come out and vote. You'll only change the numbers if people understand that how different is it if NUP came.
So the current mood is advantageous to the national interest.
I would believe so, and there's a strategic mistake by the NRM. The NRM regime and the military and police have actually played into the hands of the NUP. That you can enable NUP go deep in the villages where probably there is that group which probably will not understand what NUP stands for. In attempting to take the Honorable Kyagulanyi into the villages and not the cities, I think it's an advantage.
Thank you. Council seems to suggest that the current calmness or lukewarmness of the election is playing to the advantage of the opposition. Do you agree?
One, I want to state that the election is done. It's cold, as you said. But I don't want us to think that that is advantageous, because elections that mirror revolutions are influenced by vibe, generally. Tremendous vibe.
Yeah, but you've seen vibe, enthusiastic crowds accompanying.
Coalescing.
I've seen the vibe myself too.
No. You see, as I've told you, is that before in 2016, we had a different Besige. And I've told you statistically that the numbers have not changed. Actually, the numbers have dropped. So when you talk about the enthusiasm that was there in the previous election and this election, well, in my view, is that the facade of taking videos and circulating and everything, it's good, but mathematically, will that give us a greater voter turnout? And therefore, have we organized in the 4 years to make sure that we can be sure that this is our foundation? I want also to remind you that the votes that the Honorable Kyagulanyi garnered in the previous election were almost the same as those that were garnered by Dr. Chiza Besige in 2016. So
Kyagulanyi got 3.6.
Almost. The difference is very, very marginal. So the other thing that I want to state is that there is something we call organization.
Mm-hmm.
For the last years, I participated actively in the political space of Uganda since 2001. Structure, organization is important, and that comes from the village levels. Today, if I asked my brother Muizi, who is his chairperson of NUP at the village,
in Nyendo
Mukungwe, he cannot say. So we have a structure.
Yeah, but do you realize that the organization has been hampered by by security and the impediment of lack of a constitution.
You see, their problems are constitutional, party constitution, generally. That's also where the problem comes in. They have a lot of issues that they cannot even tell to the Ugandans which constitution they use. But that at that, I want to tell you that even FDC was impeded. DP, when was still the leader of the opposition, was impeded. The good thing is that all of us share that history of knowing how those great men, the Vanyarales, the Paul Kawanga, fought. So the NRM is doing all the dirty things to make sure that...
You know they are blockades.
Yes, I know. And those blockades
are not new.
So, but the purpose of a leadership is for you to move around the blockades. Yeah?
To maneuver them.
To maneuver and then achieve a result. So, for example, if I asked you, is that why were they in position to hold the election management committee and vet candidates at the party? They found a way to do it. You get? And therefore, failure to find solutions as leaders is not an excuse for us to account.
Do you want to suggest that NUP is scapegoating on the problems that they're having?
Yes. One, they're scapegoating. Two, the other thing is that no one wants to take accountability. To the very bare minimum, we had members of the NUP saying we are not going to do this election, because we shall be escorting President Museveni. But I want the public to pay to pay attention. A man is as good as his word. And therefore, can you have a change of mind? Yes. But you first account and say, I said A, B, C, D. In the circumstances, I have had a change of mind. You know, you have to explain, as a leader, you have to explain your words and your actions. And the two must send a picture to the public that you can be trusted. And this is the other issue I'm finding with the NUP. Even the members, the campaign slogan was Buliwola umbrella ticking. So can we account for the umbrella we ticked, including myself, by the way?
You ticked the umbrella?
Yes, I ticked the umbrella because...
Naively or with conviction?
Not naively. I had my reasons as to why I ticked the umbrella on certain parts and why I didn't tick the umbrella. On I had reasons, but that does not mean that my reasons, my expectations were met. So even to the bare minimum of an MP, I've also had something very terrible happening in Uganda's politics. When you ask for leaders and across board, in the NRM, in all other political parties, and in NUP, where they say, well, we cannot do anything in parliament, NRM has numbers, but then the same people turn around and ask that they are voted in. So we have, every time we ask our leaders to account, they deflate. So, my brother Muizi, at the micro, I want accountability in terms of what have you done as a NUP in parliament as the leader of opposition. The structures is good. I commend NUP for putting up beautiful structures in the different parts of the country. But my people in Murimira, their issue is not about the NUP headquarters. Their issues are the insecurity, whereby we keep losing people, including Michael the other time.
Yeah, but look,
but also
this building creates believability. Now you know you can relate with the political party that has an address.
You see, also others have an address.
It's about branding.
It is. The other parties also have an address, but it is not the creating of the facade of we have a beautiful. No, to me, leadership, I commend them for the headquarters, but again, we didn't send you to Parliament to create a structure. We sent you in Parliament, you were lucky, you had 57 MPs. As the head of the opposition, what have you done at that level?
Would it be so burdensome now for the National Unity Platform to come out and say the past 4 years, this is the balance sheet?
It disturbs me when I see fellow members of the forces of change. People believe that the status quo should change. Again, pointing guns at those at the forefront. I do not believe that in that rhetoric, and that is why we are failing as the opposition. Someone out there will be rather confused when he sees a person who wants to take Gen 7 out of power and all the misgovernance. Then instead of joining to improve probably where you're seeing there might be a weakness.
Have you extended an invitation to them?
It's a public invitation to fight against the dictatorship. You do not need a notice of interest to join, to show interest. You do not need any formalities.
Yeah, but
what I've told colleagues in the opposition, that the NUP did not stop you from doing the same. And if you're telling us that by NUP not having done the same, when you've not attempted to do what NUP has not done, and then you point fingers at NUP, even at the little, for example.
Yeah, but you've carried the tongue of leading opposition.
Then
ordinarily would expect you to do certain things.
If what is being spoken of by other colleagues in the forces of change is what would make an opposition, then why not make that so that you challenge me to the position? I am in the position of leading the opposition because I'm what the Ugandans believe they want, because I have the numbers. The numbers do not lie. What have you done? I would also be very comfortable that where probably I would have a 65%, there's someone who would have had an 80% to change the status quo. But then there's a lot of energy, negative energy. Why don't we be progressive? Why don't we employ positive energy to the forces of change? And the Ugandan in Mulimira, that is what they want. That unity. We may be diverse in approach, but a Ugandan down there wants that unity in helping them change the status quo.
Why would you become sensitive when they shine a spotlight on the things that you haven't done?
Because that is what has been done. I have no problem during the last 4 years. But in an election period, this is where we should all come together. Purge the gaps. Fill those gaps to ensure that now I'm not at the forefront, but there's someone already who is leading. You join hands and change the status quo. A few things, especially the issues of an infrastructure of a political party, on whether you can be a better party than NUP, can come after. But we are in an election year. I'll have to answer two things which have been specific. On one hand, you ask me whether the NUP can account for public funds. And I'm saying that is a positive. The Ugandans now know you can trust the NUP with money from the state out of what it has built, both the infrastructure and the structures of the party. And after answering that, you tell me to a person in Mulimira, it's not about the beautiful buildings. First it was, what have you done? I've put on table what I've done, then that it's not about what you've done. Then there I get
You're not convinced.
Confused. Then again, I'll also dispel the issue of an umbrella having been the slogan. The slogan of the party and the election is a new Uganda. And it emanates that there is a group, a very large group, which was neglected in the past. And that's the youth. You cannot underestimate the capacity of the youth to change. But the issue was, would you then use the youth to change through violence? Because the youth, like the president, like Gen 7 used them before, was to ensure that the Kadogos are in the bush. Would you feel the same way? I don't believe now a Uganda which thinks, you could not be surprised or natural causes that you may not have a president of this country due to age. If anyone said we do not have a president in this country for natural causes, even now or tomorrow, no one would be surprised. Would you want to deploy a youthful force through violence to change a person who is more or less finished? Or would you use those numbers purposefully? So I think it's a different strategy that the NUP is using. We think we can rally the young people.
Okay.
In this election,
believe in elections?
An election, that's why we're in an election. If we did not believe
but your
in elections...
principal said some time back that it would be foolhardy of anyone to get into an election organized by President Museveni.
Yeah, I've seen that clip before. But let me tell you, an election is not about the Honorable Kyagulanyi. It is wrong for you to believe that it's about what Kyagulanyi says. Kyagulanyi may have an opinion.
He's the rallying point for this election, isn't he?
And that shows you how flexible a leader that he is. It's not about his opinion. He's a leader of an institution which can sit and change strategy. Tell him, whereas you have this opinion, you should buy into the other opinion. And having bought into a new opinion that will be having believed in a collective, I think it is a plus. It's not a negative.
Okay.
You cannot be static in politics.
Does it then suggest that Kyagulanyi got into this election begrudgingly?
The statements were made immediately after. The begrudging was after the last election, and anyone would probably have a right so to do. After all he went through in the other election cycle, you would understand his feelings at the time and the statements. But what prevails now, probably the safeguards which may be in place now were not there in the past. Secondly, you had the Honorable Robert Kyagulanyi who had not been in politics so much for so long, but now has been structured, because at the time there was no NUP to speak to. We have a party now which discusses matters. And I've told you for a fact that let's not ignore the infrastructure of the young and how much they can bring, and the vibe.
Well, we'll take a very short break, and when we return, we'll still be diving into whether the opposition now comes with the baggage of trust or mistrust. Good morning.